so yesterday you took your cell unit packet, you went through the list of organelles on the board, you wrote the function and the name of each organelle. Now we're going to draw, color, and label each part of a cell. So remember, as you found out yesterday, plant cells and animal cells don't always have the exact same organelles. Plant cell has one or two things that animal cell does not. But first we're going to go over the ones that they have in common. So go ahead, draw you a big circle. We're going to color these later. Draw you a big circle. This is your nucleus. So go ahead and label it nucleus. If you can't see me spelling it, look in your cell unit packet. So this is the nucleus. So as we go through and draw these, think back to the function of each of these. The nucleus. Remember, this is the brain of your cell. This controls all of your cell functions. It's the boss. It tells all the organelles what to do. Because it has this beautiful little molecule in it called DNA. And we're going to have a whole unit on DNA. So we put our really big circles. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a little border around our circles. So go ahead, draw your little border on each cell, plant cell, animal cell. This border that you just drew, go ahead and label it as the nuclear envelope. Go ahead and put in parentheses that this is also called a membrane. So envelope and membrane are used interchangeably. They mean the same thing. If you remember about the nuclear envelope, it's the membrane around the nucleus, and it has little bitty pores all around it. So that DNA only stays in here. But your DNA makes things. It makes proteins. If you look at your hands, your fingernails, your hair, everything about you is some form of protein. Your DNA has to make proteins, and to be able to make proteins, you got to ship little bitty pieces of something called messenger RNA out of your nucleus and into the cytoplasm where you're later make proteins. But we'll go over that in a different unit. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is inside your big brown circle that you made, draw you a little circle. It doesn't matter if you draw it in the center, kind of off to the side. It doesn't matter. You just need one inside there. And please draw you a line to it and say that that is the nucleolus. Not the nucleus, but the nucleolus. So draw your line all the way in there and name it nucleolus. And think about the function of it. It makes something. Remember that this makes something called ribosomes. Some people call it ribosomes. We like to call it, a lot of people, ribosomes. So just to review, you've made a big brown circle. You've labeled it nucleus in each cell. You have drawn a circle around the nucleus and called it the nuclear envelope, parentheses, membrane. Then you've drawn a big, kind of a smaller circle inside your big brown circle, and you have named it nucleolus. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is just draw you some little bitty random circles all inside your cell. You don't need a lot of them. I'm going to use a red marker to indicate them later on. You're going to color these red. You'll color code them. So just kind of, they look like sprinkles on a cupcake. Just label one of them. These are called ribosomes. Now you have two types of ribosomes. You have free ribosomes and bound ribosomes. Bound means that you're stuck to something. Now, The ones that are just floating out here, these are called free ribosomes, which means that they're free to go wherever they want to. But then later, we're going to have some that are bound or stuck to an organelle. They're called free, but you don't have to call them that. Just know, hey, if I have a little round dot, it's a ribosome. It could either be free, floating around in our cell, or it could be bound or stuck to something. So let's get to those bound ribosomes. Now this goes in each of your cells. Go ahead. We're going to talk about some organelles that go around your nucleus. So, here we go. Kind of put them side by side. Draw them kind of hugging the nucleus. These are called endoplasmic reticulums, or ER. This is the highway system that your cells use to transport things, or to break down things, or to make things. The nucleus, the brain, tells them, hey, certain type of ER, whether it's smooth or it's rough, I need you to either make something, break something down, or transfer something for me. Now, our first ER we're going to talk about is the one that you'll color blue later and put red little dots. Remember, those red little dots are ribosomes. We forgot to mention the function of ribosomes. Remember, ribosomes, they make something. Most of these organelles either make something, break something, or modify or change something. Ribosomes, if you recall, they make protein. Now remember, we said earlier, if you look at your hands, your fingernails, your hair, anything about you, it is made of protein. You're just a bunch of protein. So fellas, Valentine's Day is coming up. If you see this nifty girl and you just think, man, I just think she's awesome. She's smart, she's cool. You just need to go up to her, be brave. Ladies, you can do this too if you're really brave. You just be like, you know what, so-and-so, I just think you're a nifty bunch of proteins. I really do. Now, if they're really smart, they'll go, oh, thanks. I think you are too. If they're not, they'll look at you and go, what? And then you just need to walk away. They're not worth it. Now, our first one, we were talking about the one with ribosomes attached or bound. This is called rough ER. The reason we'll shorten endoplasmic reticulum to ER so you don't have to write it all out. They called it rough ER is because whenever they looked at it under a really strong electron microscope and they saw these kind of bumps attached to it, they thought it would have the texture of being rough, or kind of like sandpaper. So if you remember, it has ribosomes stuck to it. And that allows you to figure out its function. If it has ribosomes bound or attached to it, that means that it helps in the production or the making of proteins. Now our other type of ER, endoplasmic reticulum, if it's not rough, it's smooth. Smooth ER. Now smooth, think about texture. It does not have ribosomes, so if you want to put in parentheses out here, no ribosomes, you can. So you can visually tell the difference between them. Now the smooth ER you never really learned a lot about in 7th grade. It does a lot of things. It breaks down carbohydrates. It synthesizes or makes lipids and phospholipids. We'll learn later, makes up your cell membrane. So it does a lot of things. It's really important. Rough ER, one function. Smooth ER, lots of functions. Now the next thing we're going to label is this lovely border of our cells. So find somewhere along the border of your cell, draw a line to it, and label this the cell membrane. Everybody always forgets that the cell membrane is part of the cell. It's an organelle. It's the gatekeeper into your cell. It is selectively permeable, we'll find out later. It selects what can go in or out, like the door to our classroom. We only allow people who are supposed to be in pre-AP class, first and second period, to actually come in and sit down. Just like my doorman sitting by the door, he'll look at the people who aren't supposed to be in here and he'll go, no, 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 not today. It's selective. Permeable means coming in and out. So on plant cell, find you a place, cell membrane. You won't have to color it because you already drew it. Now our next thing we want to draw, we're going to actually talk about before we put it on the board. This is called a Golgi apparatus. In 7th grade, you might have called it a Golgi body, but in AP biology and pre-AP biology, we call it an apparatus. A lot fancier name, more accurate name. Now the function for this little fella, if you remember from yesterday, or if you glance over to the sides of your foldable, it is to modify proteins. This is kind of the gift wrapping person. If you think about Christmas was just here, if you went to a department store, you bought a gift, and you had the option of getting it gift wrapped for you. They would put your present in a box, they'd wrap it up, they'd put a bow on it, and you could take it home. What your Golgi apparatus does is it takes the proteins that your smoothie are, pardon me, your roughie are, because remember it's covered in ribosomes, not your smoothie are, my bad. It helps make proteins. Well, to be able to ship the proteins out of the cell to be used in your body somewhere, it's got to be modified or gift wrapped. Like if you want to give a present to someone, you don't want to just, not wrap it. You want it to be personal. You want to gift wrap it, give it to the person and say, hey, I got this for you. I made it pretty. You can open it. If you didn't, you'd just be going here. Make it pretty. So, if it's going to gift wrap or modify our proteins our roughie R makes and ship it out of the cell, you're going to want your Golgi apparatus to be near the cell membrane, because that way it doesn't have a long way to transfer those proteins through the cell membrane out of the cell, so it can be used somewhere else. So just put it somewhere near the cell membrane. I didn't draw my cell big enough, but it's okay. And label it Golgi apparatus. If you can't see my writing, just look at your good old foldable you made. So Golgi apparatus, it's near the cell membrane because it's got to modify, gift wrap those proteins that roughie are made, ship them out of the cell. And you'll color that orange later. Just a color code. Now the next thing we're going to draw and label is what you call the powerhouse of the cell. And in your mind you're going, ooh, that's the mitochondria. I remember. Good, I'm really glad. So place your mitochondria just anywhere in the cell. We're just drawing one, but please keep in mind that your cells don't just have one of each, except the nucleus. Each cell has one nuclei, one nucleus. Has one nucleolus. But it's going to have several roughie R, it's going to have several smoothie R, mitochondria, Golgi bodies. You have a lot of those. Because think about it. Think about your muscles in your body. You got to use your muscles to move, to be able to function properly, be able to write. You're going to have a lot of mitochondria in those, which relates to our function for the mitochondria. It's the powerhouse. It's the electric company. It is the one that makes energy for your body, for your cells. And the process that it uses to create energy is called cellular respiration. We're going to have a whole unit on cellular respiration as well as photosynthesis. So go ahead, label your good old mitochondria. If you want to put in parentheses out beside it, powerhouse, you can. So mitochondria. Before we move on to drawing anything else for both of these, we're missing something on plant cell. And you've probably already thought about this. We have a cell membrane, but what's the other thing? What's that other protective layer that plant cells have that animal cells don't? Think about it. It's kind of rigid. It helps plants stay up so it doesn't fall over. Have you figured it out yet? If you have, then you know that, whoa, it's the cell wall. So go ahead, just draw you another border around your cell membrane, and then label the very outside layer cell wall. Cell wall, that's just another protective layer. We do not have cell walls. Please don't ever tell me we have cell walls. Otherwise, we would not be able to wiggle our fingers and toes. So the next time your brain goes blank and you think, oh, I can't remember, do I have a cell wall in my cells? Oh my goodness, I can't remember. Wiggle your fingers and toes. If you can wiggle your fingers and toes, you have a cell membrane only. If you're a plant, like a tree, or anything that has to stay outside and weather in the elements, it doesn't have a house to stay in, then you have a cell wall. You need another layer of protection. All right, we're almost done, guys.
Is it your room that she cleans today?
Yes.
Mop?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm almost done with my video.
Okay. I'll come right back.
All right, thank you. All right, so the next thing we're going to put on our cells is go ahead, kind of draw you a big swimming pool. You can place this anywhere in your cells. I'm just placing where I have room left. And then draw you some kind of medium-sized circles. Just kind of scatter them out. You're going to color these pink. Now these little bitty pink circles. Now in your plant cell is just going to be one big gigantic swimming pool. In your in your animal cell, they're going to be kind of medium circles. These are called the storage units of the cell. Think about what those are called. They kind of start with a V. These are vacuoles. Now in animal cells, they're just vacuoles. They can hold food, water for a rainy day. Now if you are a plant though, you have not just a plain old vacuole. You get a special one. You get a central vacuole. Central vacuole. We call it the big giant swimming pool because mainly it stores a whole bunch of water. Why your plants get a big one and your animal cells don't? Remember, plants, they're outside. They deal with the weather. They deal with climate change. They deal with just the seasons. Remember, ask yourself this question. Does it rain every day? No. It may seem like it, but it does not. Sometimes plants go through droughts. Think about California. Up until this month and a little in December, they were in a drought. Their plants didn't get water. No one went around and watered all the plants in California. So what plants do is they take this gigantic swimming pool and store some water. They have to. They store it in case there isn't rain for a while. And then whenever there's a period of time where there's not a lot of rain, they'll pull from the water source that they have in that central vacuole. But if you're going through a drought situation like California is, you're going to run out of water in that central vacuole. And then what's going to happen to that plant? You're right, it's going to die. So a lot of the vegetation and the plants in California for a while, they've had a lot to die. But they're getting rain now, and hopefully some new growth will start happening. All right, now we're on to some things that are not in both types of cells. So in plant cell only, go ahead, draw you some medium circles with little stacks of cookies in them. Just draw you a few. Looking good. Just just draw you some cookies. So draw you a circle. I'll demonstrate it over here. So draw you kind of an oval and then put little stacks of cookies in there. Those little stacks of cookies are very important later on. Label these. This is the organelle that allows plants to be green. Like Kermit the Frog said, it's not easy being green unless you're a plant. And you have a very fancy little organelle that's going to help you be green. And what's it called, my people? Please tell me it's a chloroplast. And if you think about a chloroplast, what's that beautiful little green pigment that makes your chloroplast green? Yes, it's chlorophyll. So chlorophyll is inside a chloroplast. Think about your prefix chlor. C-H-L-O-R. Chlor. Chlor literally means green. Prefixes and suffixes are already showing up in our curriculum. Alright, on the animal cell, draw you kind of some small little circles, smaller than your vacuoles. Little bitty small circles. Just put a couple of them here and there. And then draw you some little dots in them. These are called, draw me a line. These are called lysosomes. If you remember from reading your outline and writing down your functions, the lysosomes are kind of like the stomach of the cell. They have digestive enzymes, so that's what those little dots are. They're representing the digestive enzymes. It's kind of like the stomach acid in your stomach. It helps break down worn out old cell parts. It's kind of like your stomach breaks down your food. These lysosomes are like little stomachs, and they break down stuff for you. Alright, one of the last things we're going to draw, so we're going to draw on the animal cell, just in random places. Kind of draw you some little sticks. Just anywhere that you can put them. Just draw you a few. Those little sticks, let's find a place where I haven't written anything. Ooh. Those little sticks are called, they help make up the cytoskeleton. The cytoskeleton. Cyto meaning cell, skeleton meaning skeleton. This is the skeleton, or just a small part of the skeleton for your cell. Because animal cells don't have a cell wall. They have to have some type of structure to help them maintain a shape and not squish in on themselves. Like you have a skeleton. Your skeleton's made of bone. Cells, your individual cells, have a skeleton. It's made of microfilaments, microtubules, and so forth. And we'll go into those a little bit later. Now the last thing I need you to draw, we're going to draw it outside of the animal cell. And I'm going to draw it up here. It's going to kind of look like a tube. Then just kind of draw you a star shape on the top. And a star shape on the bottom. Kind of looks like a piece of Twizzler. And draw you some lines in it. This is called a centriole. Centrioles are only found in animal cells. And put you a parenthesis below it and write cell division inside. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that's parts of a cell. I'm going to kind of leave a nice little image of this at the end. So pause the video, leave it up here. Make sure you got everything labeled. Color code everything. And I will see you tomorrow.